Welcome to the We Win Injury Law podcast. I'm Tyler Todd, your host, sitting here with my co-host, Jaron, the Snow Canyon man, Sandberg. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I feel like saying good afternoon in the spirit of, pun intended, Ryan Reynolds. It's very apropos because wasn't that movie like Tiny Tim, right? Wasn't the movie Spirited about the Christmas Carol?
Yeah,
which
Christmas
is set
Carol.
in England, right? I just thought about this. It's actually perfect. This is wild. And we're going to be talking about today Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What do you think about Meghan Markle? For real.
I didn't like her in Suits.
I loved her in Suits.
I didn't like her in Suits.
I'm telling you right now. Look, there's been a couple, and my wife knows, like, which is so crazy. Another kind of connection. I used to love Blake Lively. She was like the one where you're like, because my wife loves Paul Walker.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, oh, I like Blake Lively. And the interconnection between Ryan Reynolds, Spirited, Good Afternoon, Blake Lively, and now, so you're not a fan.
I think more because her role in the show as a paralegal, she was like smarter than most attorneys.
That's true. That's true. I didn't finish my thought. It was Blake Lively and Meghan Markle. That's why.
Yeah.
So it was the two of them. Oh, so you
Didn't like her.
Really? I liked her.
And then by the time I watched the later seasons, she was already in the royalty thing, and I think that already kind of.
Oh, really? Oh, so you started watching it when she was like already like maybe either dating or married with Prince Harry?
Like, I was late to the ball game on watching that show.
Oh,
I didn't watch it like as they came.
Well, it had a resurgence, right? This is the last couple of years, so that makes sense. And people are like, "Oh, have you seen Suits?" And I'm like, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember. I think we watched like the first season around when it, but then I kind of stopped watching it. And then same thing when everyone kind of got back into it. I'm like, let's go watch it now that there's some more seasons out.
It is interesting, probably watching now, and then maybe there was the surge because of Meghan Markle.
I mean,
and her,
it's one of those things like
spotlight.
Some of these celebrities like famous for being famous, but I think hers like, again, you wouldn't have called her probably an A-list actress.
No, but she was A-list like looking.
No, but there's, she's, you know what I mean? You wouldn't have called her like there's other actresses that are kind of in that top tier. She wouldn't have got $30 million to make a movie.
You're totally right, for sure.
But then when she joined the royalty, I feel like, I don't know where the British royalty stands
so you
on
like
world's
her now?
Most famous people, but British royalty, I feel like,
they're up there.
Yeah, she's definitely more famous being
a royal,
ex-royal or whatever she's called now than she was as a television actress.
Yeah, is she royal now?
I think they stepped away from. I don't know.
So
if they're
she's
still
not considered royal.
I don't know if she's still considered royal, but they stepped away from.
They
stepped
released
away
their titles, or they still have their titles, but they're no longer.
But even like, remember in the history and some of this. Again, if you're British, listen to this, you can correct me.
Yeah, British family, you're fine.
Yeah, but when the previous king abdicated, gave up. Is he still considered royalty? I mean, you would still kind of treat him as such, even if his titles had been stripped by abdicating being the king. So
I don't think so.
We still like consider them like if there was a section on a newspaper, royal news, you'd still be talking about Harry. So whether he is a royal, or we'll still consider him. They still call him Prince Harry, regardless of whether he stepped away from his role as royalty.
Yeah, maybe.
It's such a fascinating thing because obviously. Here in the U.S., we don't have royalty. We have the closest thing to American royalty you have is like the Kardashians, right?
Oh, goodness gracious. Maybe.
But we don't have anything like the British system.
It's interesting. I mean, because obviously the new fame with Meghan and her not being A-list, but now, obviously a member of not a member of the royal family. And then Prince Harry, they keep finding themselves in the news, and they're in the news now still because one, they're in this big legal battle suing the Daily Wire, I think, or Daily Mail. They're suing the Daily Mail for all kinds of things: defamation, privacy, intrusion, and so, which you kind of like wonder, how can you do that when you are one of, like you just said, one of the most famous people in the world?
Well, it's almost like
and then it's exactly
British royalty.
Yeah. But what I was saying was you can totally talk about the British royal family because I do have British family members. So I give you authority to say whatever you want.
Yeah, you're on the inside.
Yeah, I'm on the inside. A cousin. But
cousin still counts as family.
Totally. Oh, she's like a sister.
And she's probably like British royalty practically.
Well, she knows British royalty.
Yeah.
Let's say that. Okay. So he's suing the Daily Mail. And then he's also in the middle of a big battle because he just got stripped of his security.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but
am I saying that right?
Yeah, but that's where it's interesting is like, on the one hand, you step away from being famous, so you're like, hey, these guys are intruding on our privacy. But then they kind of still need their fame to like make money.
Yeah, because they're not being funded by the royal family, I guess, anymore.
Yeah, and they need money for security.
So it's
a catch-22. Like, you still need the fame to have enough money to pay for security for your fame, but you want to step away from being
That's
royal.
The catch-22, I think, of most celebrities, right? Especially the royal family. I just listened to the podcast with Theo Von and Ben Affleck, and he made an interesting point where we sign up for this. But no one, Theo Von was kind of asking them a question, and it's really true. It's a good question. He was basically asking Ben Affleck, he's like, why do you always look like a curmudgeon? Like,
you
always look
saw the same thing.
You always look mad because he does.
He did. Well,
he just looks miserable.
Every time I've seen a picture of him like at the grocery store on the tabloid, he looks terrible.
He just looks terrible. He looks mad. He looks miserable. I don't know really what's happened with he and Jennifer Lopez. I mean, they're divorced now, I think, right? But he made an interesting point. He's like, look, what you don't see is that, we're normal. And then they just kind of keep shoving cameras in your face. And then they finally get a picture of you looking miserable. And then we are miserable in that moment.
And no one wants the picture of him smiling for the camera. That's not good tabloid fodder. Instead, you want like they're awkward when they're coming back from the gym. You see a lot of celebrity like they look like they just got done at the gym, which is never when you look your best. And
I don't know. Have you seen some people at the gym today? Goodness gracious. That's like makeup and all the things and all the outfits. And
well, but these actors actually have to work out.
That's the difference. Sorry, that's a good point.
But so I thought his comment was very telling, but it opens up an interesting, because we obviously have different privacy laws in the UK, but even here, I mean, I wouldn't want a camera following me around.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what he said. Like, look, I mean, we get it, but at some point it becomes frustrating.
Well, and he kind of said too, like, he's like, I promise I'm happy when I'm with my friends or when I'm making movies or doing my job. I'm smiling or we're having a good time. And then he was kind of like, but no, when I've got 40 cameras, like taking pictures of this kind of nice moment with my kids. Yeah, I'm not happy.
I'm not happy. It's like, get out of my face and let us live our lives. But I think to his credit, though, he was also saying, but that's kind of what we sign up for.
Yeah.
And they do. I mean, that's if you're going to be a celebrity, which pays your bills because the fame, people, obviously consuming your content, whether it be your movie or your podcast or your whatever, you're going to have exposure.
I mean, are you ready for this podcast to blow up and then have people follow you, Tyler?
I mean, for the 10 people that listen or watch it, it's going to be...
When my sister and my mom start taking videos of you, Tyler, in public places, you're going to regret what we said. That
out of my face.
It's what we signed up for.
But you're absolutely right with Prince Harry and Meghan. It feels like they want their cake and eat it too. Which I don't understand that one either. We talked about in another podcast about tooting your horn. And you were a little inappropriate about that one, by the way.
I feel like I was the one that was really the clean flicks version of it.
But what's the root of having your cake and eating it too? Or
I thought it was in some reference to like what does that mean? The French royalty, they cut off the head.
Let them eat cake.
See?
So that's where it comes from. There you go.
Okay.
Let them eat cake.
And then didn't they behead her? I think they cut
did
off her
eventually,
head.
Yeah. But having your cake and eating it too, that's kind of describes Prince Harry and Meghan because we don't want
to be famous.
We don't want to be famous.
We still want to be like movie star famous.
But you know what? Look, I'll say this.
Yeah.
Do you remember though? Do you remember Princess Diana dying? Do you remember that?
That's
when that went down.
I mean, I do remember it being a thing, but not
You're probably too young.
I was too young for it to be memorable. I think I was 10 years old. Wasn't it like 97 or something? 90s?
It was 90s.
I've been young.
So I can appreciate where Prince Harry is trying to protect his family the way that he was unable, obviously, to protect his mom.
Yeah.
And he obviously blames the paparazzi, and I think he blames a number of other people, and maybe including the royal family, for her death.
Yeah.
And he's been very vocal about what it is to be a royal, and he's exposed the royal family on Oprah, other interviews and podcasts. He's written a book.
Yeah.
And so you can, I think and he is the darling, I think, of Britain, Prince Harry.
Well, and
have you been to England?
Well, no, I haven't been to England.
It's a wonderful place.
But there's some serious allegations too it's one thing that for the paparazzi, because my understanding with the mom is that this is paparazzi following him in a vehicle and they're kind of following her.
Right.
But it did get to an extreme level. But in this, he's alleging phone tapping, home bugging, illegally accessing medical records. I mean, these are all kind of things that are hallmarks of American laws.
This is his lawsuit for Daily Mail doing that against him, right? Yeah, right.
But we know from law school, phone tapping is a way different thing than taking a picture from a public road, right? In the United States, at least, the way we've, at least with our privacy and First Amendment, you kind of have carte blanche when it's on the public road, right? I can take pictures of someone's house. There's a lot of stuff you can do from the roadway, in public, filming the police officers, those kind of things.
Yeah, legally, you have an expectation to your privacy. And that's one of the defenses that you can assert.
Yeah.
When you leave your home, right, that expectation of privacy goes away.
Yeah.
Which is why the paparazzi are able to do what they do and take those pictures, because you can no longer claim the expectation of privacy when you're out in public.
Yeah. And in this case, if the allegation is true that they were phone tapping and bugging their home and illegally accessing their medical records of it, and this was his son, yeah, now we've clearly crossed a boundary.
The line. That's egregious behavior.
And so I if this was at least in the United States, and I don't know if the UK's laws more aggressive towards those kind of things, or less aggressive.
No, in the UK, you can bug anybody, you can film anybody, you can actually go into bathrooms and put.
But my guess is if it's similar here in the United States, if I was representing Harry and this case was being fought in the United States, you would say absolutely. If we have evidence of phone tapping, they've crossed the line and they'd breached that, and then. What is that worth?
What's that worth?
Because if it's in the civil case, and I think the reason they're doing is not necessarily the monetary value of winning the civil case, but more let's get the laws changed and bring awareness to it.
It's really interesting because for example, when you talk about damages and what's that worth, because in tort law, which is what we do, with injury law, that's what we do. It's called a tort. When someone's done a civil wrong against you, it's a tort. And in order to prevail in your tort claim, okay, if anyone reads John Grisham out there, I recommend King of Torts, his book, King of Torts, really good. In a tort claim, you have to prove that there's been a duty of certain things, right? And you have an expectation of privacy. So someone owes you a duty and you've breached that duty, and then that breach of that duty causes you damages. Well, when you're a royal or a member of the royal family, your expectation of privacy, I don't know if it's super high, but if that's been breached, then I would imagine the damage is significantly higher than if that was breached against you or I.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If someone's bugging my house, which I don't want, or taking videos in your home, which I don't want.
Yeah.
There aren't going to be that many people that see it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Right?
The real life of the Todd's house, right?
Oh, no. Don't let that get out.
Yeah.
And so what are my damages? Okay, they offended Mr. Todd. What? Okay.
Yeah.
But when that happens to a member of the royal family like Prince Harry, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So is it worth 50 million? Is it worth 100 million?
Well, and
500 million?
And this is where it even gets trickier is there's certain people like Ben Affleck, for example. He is a movie maker, accomplished actor, director, everything.
Accomplished is debatable.
But could he have avoided his celebrity status? Yes. Versus the royalty, they're kind of they're kind of born into it. And And that's even more of a unique than even just the celebrities we're used to, because most American celebrities are kind of self-made, or there are some that are
or they're low-key seeking it. And I don't know if they're seeking the fame, but they're seeking the
versus the royal family. It is an interesting dilemma, and especially for his kids, of just the fact that they're born into this. Now they're famous, and now you can intrude more than maybe a private citizen.
And even that, because the royal family has a contract with different media in the UK, and they can do and say certain things.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of what he exposed, is that the media has access that any normal person wouldn't want.
Yeah.
But in order for the royal family to keep doing and making money and holding on to certain properties and certain rights as the royal family, they've had to give certain
access different things
for in the return of money. Because that's the way, obviously, tabloids are making their money, or media are making their money, is giving, the
inside
exclusive access on the inside scoop of the royal family.
Yeah.
And I think Prince Harry exposed that. I'll say, and this is what I understand, I believe it to be, that he is the darling of the UK, or was. I don't know where he currently stands.
See, what's weird to me is
what are they currently?
What I recall was that Prince Harry had done, and again, this is the first time I became aware of Prince Harry wasn't with the Princess Diana stuff, because I was too young then. I recall him getting a lot of flack for, I think he dressed up as a Nazi soldier at a Halloween party.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yes,
that was my very first introduction to him. Was more like, hey, he's not going to be king, so he can kind of be a prankster and a goof off. And that was actually how I knew him. But then I didn't, this is maybe more news, and maybe I need to follow the royal. Again, I always thought Prince William was kind of the good son.
You definitely need to follow the royal family more.
I didn't know that they didn't dislike. Is it Prince William? That's the brother. Prince William's the heir apparent or whatever. And I thought he was the one that was more favored and liked. But maybe, I don't know, maybe I had that wrong.
Well, I mean, I think it's more because Harry's the baby, right? Yeah. The cute and just, the kind of like the charismatic and just not caring and doing stupid stuff that people can relate to.
And maybe he was kind of off the hook, so it could be more himself.
Yeah, well, he's more relatable.
Yeah.
Prince William, I think, is very he's acted like a king since
and
he's been little.
And he's had to, I guess, because so next in line.
So on one hand, you can understand Prince Harry's consternation with the media and the paparazzi and obviously wanting to protect his own family. But then at the exposure of not having a family, that's not the exposure, the expense.
Yeah.
At the expense of not having his own family. Because now I understand his family don't even talk to him. And he just got stripped of his security.
Yeah.
Or denied.
Or at least denied increased security. Again, we can follow up on that. But yeah, it's kind of just interesting where it's so, and again, this is probably where the fascination with Americans, I recall being in Congress. This is where it's funny, is I was doing an internship in Congress, and it was during, I can't remember if it was Prince Harry's wedding or Prince William's wedding, but one of the two. But everyone at the office, so this is in the United States Congress, every TV across every office was watching the wedding. I can't remember which one it was. So whatever one occurred in 2011, they were all watching it. Everyone, all the staffers in our office were like, "What's happening now?" It might have been,
was it the Harry and Markle one?
I don't know if I think maybe it was.
Or was it the William and Kate?
I don't know which one it was. Like I said,
that's 13 years ago, so it could be William and Kate.
Yeah, so whichever one it was, I just remember and that was kind of the first time beyond the, I remember him being in the Halloween costume. First time me being, we're like, oh, people are really interested in this. And CNN was doing live coverage of it. And so even though we act like, we don't like royalty, and we've had them off since we sent that letter across the pond.
Yeah.
It was a Will and Kate. Yeah, so
Will and
not
Kate.
Not even the American. Which again, then maybe you could see more interest, but this was Will and Kate. And I remember all these congressional staffers who obviously care about American politics watching this live in Congress.
It's foreign relations, that type of thing, right? President Trump just announced the first big deal, and it was with the UK.
Yeah, that's true.
And like I asked you earlier, you haven't been to England.
I have not been to England.
It's actually quite lovely. I mean, London, when you think about it, you're like, London, whatever, because it's not as exotic. And for whatever reason, I feel that way.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't seem
When I've thought of
exotic.
like, if I want to go over there somewhere and like, I've been to Israel, but my next thought was not go to England. It was, maybe Europe somewhere that seems a little, and maybe it's because they speak English, even though it's,
yeah, so maybe it's not as foreign, right? But London's beautiful. I mean, it's the people are great. It's a beautiful city. The countryside's amazing. The people are. We had a great time. We were over there for I don't know 10 days. We did, went up to north of Manchester, where my cousin's from, or that area, and then went down through the Cotswolds, and then went into London for several days, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. I actually think it was great. But what I noticed was there were a lot of like, odes to the royal family, and Prince Harry was a big part of that. And it's interesting seeing what he's going through now, as opposed to this was 5 years ago, just how it's shifted.
Yeah.
And he having to then file lawsuits and then all the different things that he's been having to do to get either more security or deal with
out of favor.
Going home. He's out of favor.
He's definitely
not speaking to his dad, who's now the king, and not speaking to his brother. And it's kind of sad. And
coming from a father's perspective, just last night, where you went from mad about curfew to terrified for your son, to imagine him doing something that you're like, I'm just going to write him off and not talk to him ever because I'm king.
I don't know. It's hard.
That's a hard.
But then,
really, the beef comes mostly from wanting to just step away from that limelight.
And didn't he denounce his UK residency or citizenship, or not? He didn't do that.
I don't think he's an American citizen. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But he is out of favor.
He is now a U.S. Well, he's a U.S. resident.
Yeah,
they live in L.A., right? I think. So, I just don't know. I mean, the lawsuit side of it against the Daily Mail, that's going to be the biggest defense that they're going to have, is what his expectation of privacy is. Now, again, like I said, you don't put videos in buggy. You don't put audio.
I can't imagine that's good there or
not
anywhere.
Good anywhere. And so but when we're talking about damages, that's going to be the biggest issue is what's that worth? So, okay, so they're found liable, the Daily Mail. What's it worth?
And again, even if they win, if it doesn't change the laws in the UK, then is it really a win? I mean, is there amount of money that really changes it? So, you get awarded money. So, is that just scare everyone?
Well, I read somewhere that he's already paid somewhere to the tune of $47 million in legal fees.
Either him or the royalty has paid that.
Or the British taxpayers.
Then it makes you more mad if you're a taxpayer.
$47 million in legal fees?
Doge might have an issue with that.
Sounds like you get back to the UK. You're not welcome here.
Now that he's like his role is diminishing, I wonder if they're going to call on him now that we've got this good deal.
Maybe Prince Harry has it figured out.
Yeah,
he's going to skyrocket to the top of American politics. Maybe I do feel bad. I feel bad, and I do hope that because, like you said, can you imagine not speaking to your parents or your family and not having a relationship, just simply over trying to do what's best for your immediate family? Because at some point we leave the roost, right? And you get married, you have a partner, you have kids, or may not have kids, but you have a family of your own, and however that family looks like, but you have your own family. And not to say that you don't love your siblings that are older and have their own families, and your parents that are still kind of wondering where the time went and where's my family, but you have your own family. And so how do you then, I feel bad for him.
No, and that's where, like, again, even in defamation cases in the US, and we look at what's it worth, there is sometimes where they can have if there is economic damages, you're looking to, if they lost out on certain things because of damaging publicity and defamation. But in this situation where you're suing for the privacy rights, it's just such a unique lawsuit.
It is. Let me ask you this. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you think he overstepped, Prince Harry, on doing like the Oprah interview and really exposing, like, because I think that's
the catalyst.
If I understand it correctly, I think that's what broke the king's back, if you will.
Yeah, the straw that broke the camel's back. They might not have been happy, but they were going along with things until that moment.
And then they obviously felt betrayed and exposed. What do you think? Do you think you overdid it? Went too far?
There's two thoughts I have. One is obviously yes, that's the easiest explanation. The second is it's all part of some like master plan to get more publicity on the whole thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it did feel like almost like a big publicity stunt.
Did you come up with that, or you heard that somewhere?
No, I just was, as I've thought about it, I've always just thought like, again, this is how we make it in America. This is how I kick it off, is I shit on everyone, and now everyone's interested in me.
Okay. I mean, that's a good one. That's why I asked.
Right.
It's a good one.
Because I just have, as I looked at it, it was like, let me give you the behind the scenes on why they're all so terrible as I welcome to America. And what bigger stage to do it on is Oprah.
And U.S. media.
Yeah.
Or U.S. tabloids.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it kicked off
that could be.
And it kicked off a ton of interest, right? It's drumming up, if Trump's shown us anything, it's even bad publicity is good publicity, right?
So do you think the king and...
Now, are they in on it? No, I don't think it goes to that level. It would have maybe been more coordinated, but at least with Harry and...
That'd be...
You just wonder if that was the strategy, that's the greatest
it's
PR
low-key
move.
Silly, but it's brilliant if the king... What's his freaking name right now? I can't think of his name.
Charles?
King Charles. If King Charles and...
If they were in on it?
And William and Kate, and they don't, and none of them have cancer.
That's the other big... That's a great conspiracy
Prince Charles has, I think has been diagnosed with cancer. It's been rumored, at least. I don't think has it been confirmed about Kate.
Again, I don't think she's like shared medical.
Unless it's part of the conspiracy. It could be.
Now, do you think she's more favorable?
Kate?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think they love her.
I think she's very popular.
She's almost like the next Diana.
So Harry to William, it's Harry, in your opinion.
Wait, what?
Harry versus William, who's more liked?
Well, I think now it's William, because he's the next king, and it's coming sooner and sooner, and because they love,
and he feels like very British.
He's very proper.
Yeah,
he's very. I think if he was disliked or not liked or just kind of whatever, I think that's turned in his favor because he's becoming more likable.
Yeah,
and Kate is a doll.
Kate, see, that's my view. Again, not being a huge follower, but following it enough. She seems very favorable, and especially beating cancer. I think people supported that.
So that's their, yeah. So I think that has put them in the public favor. And then Charles, he's king, whatever. It's just wild that we're even having this conversation.
I mean,
we're talking about
it's in the news. It's working. So again, if it's the greatest PR stint in history that commenced at
I just said that Kate Middleton was a doll. I said that. I said that out loud.
You did.
That's crazy. But it felt appropriate because it's the royal family, and it's just kind of like, that's what you talk about. Like, I feel like we should have a teacup or something in our hands as we're
you lift your pinky and drink some tea.
Yeah. And like an English breakfast.
What are the biscuits?
A biscuit.
A biscuit.
And a chip. Yeah. Do you know that? Have you ever had an English breakfast? You know what that is when I say that? I mean, it's like the beans
and
the
English muffins before.
No, it's no. An English breakfast is like black pudding, which is like a mushroom, I think. Black pudding with blood, but I think that's part of the English breakfast. I think black pudding. I think it is a tomato, beans, not like, and we're talking like just normal like.
I thought fish and chips was like the British thing.
It is, but not English. You don't eat that for breakfast.
I thought they ate it every single
English
meal.
Breakfast is like a piece of toast and then an egg, but with beans, the black pudding, a tomato, maybe like a sausage.
That's
like
a hearty breakfast.
It's quite nice, actually.
With the pinky.
With some tea.
With some tea.
All right. Anyways, look, I like Meghan Markle. I don't like her now, though, to be honest. I don't like her now. Well, because I feel like it's one of those things where you're like, and I think most of the British people feel the same way. You feel bad for Harry, and you kind of blame her.
Yeah.
Fair or unfair, I think you blame her. And I've kind of maybe got sucked into that mentality that you blame her. So you feel bad for Harry.
You have to think at some level, if he'd have married someone that was British, they wouldn't be dealing with any of this.
Right. So you got to blame her a little bit. And then you got to ask yourself, well, has she overdone it? And she's been to like, choose me or your family, and whether that's happened or not, who knows?
But that's the sentiment.
That's the sentiment. So I don't know. I used to love her because I thought she was fantastic in Suits, but now not so much.
Was she good in anything else?
I don't know if she's been anything else.
That's why I said I never thought she was like an A-lister. Besides Suits.
She might do a lot of great for the world. Who knows? I don't know. But she was great in Suits. And that's how, and so now you're like, Meghan Markle, you just kind of like ruined this guy's life. And the royal family, they're ruined.
Or he ruined his own by...
No, it was Meghan.
Yeah.
It was Meghan.
It was Meghan.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the lawsuit, because I'm interested not so much in the procedure of the lawsuit, but the damages.
If they're found liable,
what do the damages look like? And this is important for everybody to know. If they're watching or listening, they're probably tuned out, but tune back in, hopefully, because I want to talk about something important. What are damages worth? And so when juries look at the individual and they're trying to put a value on someone's life, and we hear this a lot, that in wrongful death cases, sometimes they're just not very valuable. And the reason why is because it's hard to put a value on someone depending on their age, right?
Yeah.
Depending on their occupation, their education level, whether they had heirs or not. So dependence, right? And all those factors go into to determining what a case is worth.
Yeah. When
there's been a wrongful death involved.
Well, and I think even to complicate it more, you're asking 9 strangers or 8 strangers because if they knew the person that died, they wouldn't be on the jury.
Yeah, and so maybe they're obviously not going to love that person.
Or they're not going to love them like a spouse.
Right.
You ask a spouse whether her husband's life was worth it died
$100 million.
There's no number.
Yes, right.
It's unlimited. But you ask 8 jurors that are strangers, because if they have any knowledge of the case or any knowledge of the person, they're kicked off the jury.
Right.
So it's got to be complete strangers that come up with a number.
And it has to be somewhat objective, but then that's why that's what we do is
we're trying to tell them that story, get them to know that person.
And know that person.
But we're limited by the judge saying I can't get you a 2-week trial. You got a week.
Right.
And so then you're trying to convince these 8 people over the course of a week for something they thought they wanted to do, but don't really want to be doing jury duty, to then award money to a person they have no knowledge of.
Yeah, and so that becomes part of the complicating factor. So if you're listening or watching and think about it. If you ever get called to a jury, because I just met with some clients who are like, I've been called to a jury and I hate that process. And I'm like, well, what would you award? And more oftentimes they're not. I wouldn't award that. And they're like, well, what about now? Because this is your case.
Yeah.
Well, I'd award it to me.
Yeah.
Like, well, wait a second.
I'd award damages.
Put yourself in people's shoes. And I think as a community, as people around the world, we have British people invading us like Prince Harry. Put yourself in other people's shoes and say, look, I don't love that person. I don't know that person, but these people do.
Yeah.
And what's that life worth?
And just like in his case, like him, hate him, dislike him, we can all agree the invasion of privacy on his 4-year-old kid now or 6-year-old kid now. I think we're all on board with that's not cool.
It's unacceptable.
That's unacceptable. Again, the privacy and stuff related to the adult royals, different story.
Yeah. And so
wrongful death, it's the same way. And I think too, even wrongful death we've talked about this before, we've had some wrongful death cases of people that are older. And we just, there's a big verdict in Utah of the $16 million verdict. But one of the first things me and you commented on was, well, how old was he?
How old was he?
And I think he was 35.
35.
35 years old. It shouldn't be that someone that's older is worth less and someone that's younger is worth more. But the reality is it is. The more life to live, even we have ways of telling that story, depending on the age. But
we're going to talk about that.
Putting a number.
We're going to talk about that case in another podcast, but it's hard putting a number. So if you're ever called a jury dude, just and that's I think how we should all live. Put yourself in someone else's shoes before you comment or judge or whatever. And social media, even comments are just wild.
Yeah.
Just think about that. And anyways, we'll talk more about the judgment if there is a verdict or a judgment or a settlement in the Prince Harry deal, because that'll be interesting to find out what that is worth. What's his privacy worth?
Okay, let's do a quick prediction though. they are found liable, what's the number? And then we can revisit this prediction once they come out with it if they are found liable.
100 million. It's Prince Harry.
I'm going 50 million.
It's Prince Harry.
50 million, 100 million. We'll revisit this when it comes out.
Okay. That's fair. Let's do that.
I like that.
You guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you like this episode, subscribe and share it. And lots of more cases coming up to talk about. And it's awesome stuff that we do on a daily. It's adversarial in nature because that's what it is. Insurance companies are always going to fight against you, but that's why hopefully you hire a lawyer. Hopefully you have someone fighting for you. And that's what we do. We win for you, period.